And we've always thought the government had the Google test. If a government enforcement agent can find it on the internet in a few hours of searching, you're going to be held to have known that.
Hello, this is Soo-Mi Rhee, and I'm a partner in the white-collar practice of Arnold & Porter, specializing in national security matters. Today, I'm joined by Matt Bell, the global practice leader of export controls, sanctions, and trade at FTI Consulting. Thank you for joining us, Matt. In October of 2022, the Biden administration issued new export controls that really target exports of semiconductors and supercomputer-related items. And it has had tremendous impact, frankly, negative impact on the industry. And once the rule was announced in October 7, 2022, there was a vast loss of market cap among many of those in the semiconductor industry. And we're going to really delve into more of the specifics. Now, when this whole U.S. person restrictions came out, there was a wording within the concept of support that really, to use a very legal term, freaked out folks. And I'm going to say that was a term facilitation, because for those of you who are familiar with the sanctions regime, facilitation is such a broad concept. So frankly, if you're any way, shape, or form involved in a transaction, just imagine, direct or indirect, you're facilitating that transaction. Since that rule came out, the government has once again clarified that it's more circumscribed. Do you foresee the Commerce Department now sort of giving a very broad, expansive view of the term facilitate going forward as it's issuing new regulations?
I don't know that they'll actually tell us their broad view. I think they will have a broad view. I think they have intentional vagueness in a lot of the things they publish. They want to convince people to stop business in China at a large extent. And if they define the contours too concretely, then everyone will figure out how to go around them or how to comply very close to the line. But in their risk-based world, you have all the time in the world and all the resources in the world to conduct that diligence. And that's where you really got to push back on them if there is any enforcement action, in my view, and talk about the realities of how many partners do you have in that country? How many resources do you have to look at it? How long would that take? And we've always thought the government had the Google test. If a government enforcement agent can find it on the internet in a few hours of searching, you're going to be held to have known that. But the reality is a few hours of searching times maybe you have 10,000 clients in China is 30,000 hours of work.
Yeah, we oftentimes get questions from clients. Okay, I understand. You've been telling me to do the Google searches. Okay, up to what page do I have to do the searches? Do I need to look at page 1? Is that sufficient? Or do I have to go to page 10? And that's why we tell clients, if you're doing this diligence and you're actually expending a lot of resources, make sure you document it, because without documentation, it's really hard to prove after the fact that you went through all the trouble to do this. And there are methods to doing documentation that all of us like FTI and Arnold & Porter can definitely help with. Just stepping a little bit back for those who may not be familiar with why we are focused on the knowledge, it's the way these export controls work is that if you have knowledge when you are exporting items that are subject to U.S. export controls that will be used for the development and fabrication facilities in China to develop and these specified higher technology ICs and supercomputers. But if you have knowledge that it may be used in the development or production, then that requires a license that previously may not have been required to export to China. And so this is a very daunting task for companies, because depending on where you lie in the supply chain, you may not have actual knowledge of what the end user's capabilities are and what the end use will be. Is it going to be used in a facility that can really develop the kind of NAND or SOCs that will have the capabilities that's being controlled under the new regime? So I think what you said, Matt, is exactly on point. Trying to navigate, really do the due diligence necessary, but there's some limitations. And frankly, Department of Commerce, I believe Deputy Assistant Secretary at one point said that the U.S. government may issue a positive list of facilities that have the capability to develop these higher tech ICs and supercomputers. So the industry is anxiously waiting for it. But in the meantime, these rules are still effective. And everybody's going to have to comply, which is a very big challenge. And to that end, Matt, I know you and I discussed this previously, but to negate knowledge, there's obviously going to be due diligence that can be conducted. And you said right on, you don't just look at current information available, because a lot of the companies in China, they've changed the information on their website. They've done some scrubbing to at least not publicly be made known what it is and what type of technology is involved at their facilities. So you do a more archived information due diligence. But beyond that, I know we talked about actually receiving and trying to get end-use certificates as far along the supply chain as possible. Can you sort of speak to that and how effective that has been?
Yeah, so I think adding this element to end-use certifications is where a lot of companies are going. They're already doing it for military end-use purposes, or they've done it for years for just general export compliance purposes. Uh, Getting the difference of a negative certification versus a positive certification. And I know from discussions with government, they really prefer positive certifications, and I'll explain the difference. Negative means you're saying, I do not engage in activities that meet these levels that are prescribed. Whereas the positive certification would say, this is the application or the level of technology I'm going to use it. What's interesting with these regs is you almost need both, because you're trying to say they can't do these certain higher level things, but you'd also like to know, well, then what are you doing with it?
Well, I mean, I wish we can tell our semiconductor industry clients that there's going to be good news, less regulations coming forward, but I don't think that's really in the cards in 2023 or any near future. Matt, I really appreciate you spending the time to talk to our semiconductor clients, and we look forward to working with you and helping with all of their issues in the compliance space.